What's going on, everybody? It is Thursday, almost Friday, Thursday, July 18th. Had to run and get some materials after lunch, so headed back to the job site now. Just wanted to jump on here real quick and say that I appreciate all you guys that are watching the videos. And I know it's not a lot, but over 100 views on the couple videos that I've made so far. It's a big deal to me. Didn't even know if I'd get one view, let alone 100. So I appreciate that. I would ask that if you have any constructive criticism to comment those for me, because we want to do good with the channel. Today, don't really know for sure what we're going to get into when we get home, but I'm going to get into something this afternoon. I've got some power washing I need to do. I've got a whole list of stuff that needs to get done, so we'll get into something this afternoon, and I'll bring you guys along with it. Maybe do a little tour of the property so you guys can see where we are and what we've had going on. Like I said, we've been working on the property, but yeah, just wanted to get on here and tell you how much I appreciate it. Really thankful for you guys watching the videos, and hopefully you're enjoying what you're seeing. Yesterday was a short video. First time I'd ever done time-lapse. I didn't realize a 40-minute long project would only be 29 seconds of filming, so now I know, and we'll try and break those up a little bit. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys here after a bit. What's up, everybody? Out in the garage after work. Gonna do a leather project. So I got a guy at work that's wanting one of the straps for the tape measures, and then I got another guy that wants another one. So we're gonna work on putting a couple of those together. I've got a time lapse going too that we'll put at the end of the video, but I just wanted to kind of also have some content of kind of talking through what I'm doing and the steps that I'm taking and some of the tools and products and everything that I'm using. So go along with us, and we'll see how this goes. All right, let's get started. So these are the things I was showing you guys the other day to put the tape measures on at work. And basically all they are is just an 1.5 inch by 6 inch piece of leather. And then we'll trim the edges up, and it's one thing about doing this stuff with me anyway. I always go a little on the heavy side of my number, and I'll show you why here in a second, but a lot of it is because when you're trimming the edges and stuff, you do lose a little bit of the leather, so you want to be able to keep the width. So there's one, that'll make one of them. And then, so I'm doing one brown, and then I got a guy that wants a black one. And I always just use an X-Acto knife. Straight edge. I'm not really worried about this table. So, you know, if you're working on a surface where you're worried about what's underneath, you know, by all means do. I've seen people put cutting boards under them, all kinds of things. So we've got our shapes cut. That's our starting point. I want to take this tool, which just what this is going to allow me to do is to thin out the ends. I don't want to really thin out the long sides. I just want to thin out the ends, because when we fold this over, you don't want your leather buildup to be too much. You want to be, basically you want to get this down to where when it's folded, it's as thick as the leather is. And the leather's different thicknesses. You can buy, you know, real soft leather. You can buy tooling leather, which is a real firm, hard leather, kind of like this piece here. The ones I'm using today, they're pretty soft. They're not too soft because I want them to still hold their shape somewhat. So, but I'm going to take this and just bevel the back of the ends, just enough on each side to where whenever we fold all this together, it's not going to build up too much. Same thing on the other side. And again, I'm doing a time lapse at the same time I'm doing this, so you know, if you're interested but don't really want to know how to make it, but you want to see the final product, by all means, you guys can feel free to skip to the end and just watch the time lapse. But so I got that done. Now we're going to come in here with this tool. This is a beveling tool, and what this is going to do is it's going to clean up the edges. We're going to run this all the way around. We just want to clean up the back side of this, that we don't have any frays or anything like that sticking out. And it doesn't take off very much. It's just enough to really clean this up, so you know the product at the end looks good. And I know right now it's really not all that detailed as far as up close, but hopefully when Maddie can start filming for me, I'm gonna clean this edge up just a little bit and realize it wasn't really cut that square. She can get close-ups and stuff like that. So we got that, and then this right here is basically like a sandpaper for leather. So you kind of can find, like I'm using this notch right here. I'm just running this through here all the way around, and believe it or not, this takes off any of those remaining burrs that the beveling tool didn't get, and that helps you have a really nice clean product. So I got that one done. I'm gonna do the same thing to this brown one. I'm not gonna bevel, or I'm not gonna shave the ends of this one, because this leather is a little thinner. So you got to take all that into consideration. Like if your leather is already pretty thin, like this one is, you don't really need to thin it out even more, because you want, you know, something for your glues to bond to and your stitches. We're gonna stitch these up, and the glue is gonna hold it. The stitching is more for decorative, and it's also just a kind of a backup to the glue if the glue was to give out. So far on all the ones I've made, the glue's held really good. So doing the same thing with this one. Just cleaning these edges all up. Next thing I'm gonna do, this is a gauge. This will set, so this has a set screw, and it'll go smaller or bigger depending on what you're wanting your border to be. So on these, I typically just take, this is the very first one I made, so there's nothing on it. But I'll take the stitching border. You can kind of see it's got these teeth. I'll take this stitching border and go around the edges just to give it a design. And then I'm gonna, I'll be stamping the initials in these as well. But I'm gonna do just a real quick scribe with this, and then we'll be able to have something to follow with our stitch tool. Now typically, whenever you're going to stitch something, you would use like a needle punch. But because we're going to have some materials that are built up on these, I'm just going to use a hand punch to put just a couple holes in there to stitch it. Again, these are going to be used at work, so I care more about the rigidity of them than I do really, you know, the looks of them, because after about a week it's going to be pretty dirty anyway, and you're not going to be able to see most of what I'm doing. Now you can also use these stitch guides for your hole placement for your threads. So if you have like a wallet or something you're stitching all the way up, you can run this guide, this first tool I used, and then come behind it with this, and then this is going to give you an even stitch pattern. But you can see, so I made the guide all the way around it, and now we've got just a little stitch pattern there, just something to give it a little extra. So we did it on the brown one, the same thing on this black piece here. And don't worry if you get off just a little, because the leather is going to move. You're not going to see any of this. You'll see the stitching, which is the important part. That's the decorative part that we want to see. But these lines are going to go away, and you won't see. Because sometimes, depending on how thick or thin the leather is, this thing wants to fall off the edge of it. The biggest thing with this stuff is just take your time. Check the fitment of everything, and before you start gluing and stitching. I would try and speed through when I first started doing this. There's the black one. But it's no fun whenever you gotta start cutting stitches out, or like this one here, I riveted this one. This one didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I'm actually gonna use this clip off of this one, so I'm gonna cut that off there now. So this is all these are. These are just, if you go to Lowe's or any hardware store, these are where they sell the keys. So all these are is a key ring. That's why you want to make sure if you do these and you get this style, there's a sliding clip here that opens. And you want to make sure that this is on the fold, the inside fold, how I had this one. So this was the inside fold. You want to make sure this is on the inside. That way, for one, you don't have that buildup of metal for your tape measure. But for two, it won't come apart. That way that holds that clip in there. And even if it does separate, it's not going to fall off. These are spring loaded, so they hold up really well to putting on and taking off the tape measure all day, every day. All right. So, one of the best things I can advise any of you guys is to go get some of these little small clamps. This is really helpful whenever you start putting your glue on, to hold it while the glue sets up. You can buy leather glue. I've used leather glue, but this DAP Rapid Fuse has worked really well, so that's what I'm going to use today. Like I said, I've used the leather glue as well, and the leather glue holds extremely well, but you know, we just want to make sure whatever you're using, it's going to bond. Get you guys one of these glue spatulas. So if you go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's in their craft section, most of them places have a leather craft section. So get you some of these glue spatulas. They're real handy, that way you don't get it all over your fingers. So we're just going to pour a little bit of this out. I make sure, first of all, that I like my links. Those look good. Don't know if I like that end or not. Like I said, you just want to fit everything together. Yeah, I like that a lot better. We'll take some of this glue and just spread it on the end, and then go up, you know, about a half of an inch and spread a little more. And then you're going to take your clip, press all this together, and then you're going to take these clips you're just going to clamp that down. Then you're going to set that one to the side, and we'll do the same thing with the black one. Like I said, we just want to make sure. Same thing with this one. I don't really like that one end. On something like this where you're going to cover it up. And then see, this is what I'm talking about. We're a little uneven on the edge of that one. I don't really like that. So I'm going to take these scissors. I'm just going to fold the piece in half and see how much I need to trim off everywhere. It's not very much, it's very little. And then just use your piece you're keeping as a guide. There we go. That looks a lot better. Alright. Same thing again. We're going to take some of this glue, put a little on the end. Don't be afraid to put quite a bit of glue, because like I said, you want this thing to last and to hold up. Get our clip here, slide that in, and same thing again, take our clamp. Spring clamps, Pony clamps. Pony's actually a brand, but in construction, we all know these as Pony clamps. Alright, so we got both of them setting up. In the meantime, while those are kind of drying, I'm going to put this glue that we have left over back in here, because this stuff is not cheap. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the stuff out to do the stamp work. And I'll kind of show you guys that stuff. All right. Paper towel real quick. Make sure you clean them glue spatulas off. They'll last you a lot longer. They're not really expensive, but you know, it all adds up. So, done with the knife for now, the edge tools, the beveler, our little leather sander, as I like to call it. All right, next, we're gonna get some stamps out. So this is just because these are small, I just use small letters. And then so you're going to need those. You're going to need your punch, your stamp hammer and punch. I use that for punching my stitching holes as well. And then handle for your stamp. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the thread out that I want in my needle. So for the black one, I'm going to use a white thread. I really like the white. And then for the brown one, I'm probably going to go with I think I'm going to go with this gray color. So some extra white out in case I need it. So this is typically what you would use for punching your holes for your stitching. They make all kinds of them. There's that style there. This is my favorite. As you can tell, this one's missing actually a needle, but I have another one of these. These for thread, these are great. When you go to start using like your leather strips that I've done on some, you need something a little thicker, and that's where these are going to come into effect. And then I've got different heads I can switch out for these. All right, first time working on it. Excited about having a table to work on. This is going to be handy for this stuff. We're working on car parts, which the next video I'm hoping to get into some of these parts that we've taken off this car already. I want to clean them up. I'm going to probably use this table and clean them up and kind of go over that with you guys and get them ready to sell. As I mentioned before, parts and stuff are so expensive anymore. So if we can help somebody save a buck or two, then by all means, that's what I want to do. So you can see that that glue, it dries relatively quick. It's pretty malleable stuff or fast drying stuff. I did mess up though. I'm gonna need more glue. Hopefully there's enough left on here. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take some more of this glue on the other end. So that fold we just did, we're gonna coat that really well. You wanna coat it more toward the bottom. Like down in here, you don't want to be up here by this because our leather's not going to go all the way up. It's going to stop down here. So we want to coat both sides of that. We're going to fold this. And then we're going to do the same thing as soon as I can get this adjusted right. We're going to put a clamp on each side. We're going to let that set up for a minute. And then once these set up after this step, then we'll be ready to punch some holes, stamp them, or punch some holes and stitch them, and then we'll stamp them. So same thing on the black one. Put a little glue there. Little glue here. And as I said, so when I first started doing this, I didn't realize you were supposed to use glue. Like I said, my grandfather used to make leather, but I never got to see it and really learn it. I've seen it, but I didn't get to really learn it. So, and when I first started making projects, I didn't even use glue most of the time because I didn't know you were supposed to. But the glue is a big help, especially for your stitching. It holds everything together, and then you're not trying to hold it together while you're stitching it. And that's what I did with a couple of the wallets that I made. So like this wallet, for example, this is the very first wallet I ever made. The quality is not that great, but you've got multiple layers. So you got a double layer on the inside for your bill flap. You've got triple layer for the pockets, and then all 5 of those layers come together on the ends. So I was trying to hold all this stuff together and make sure the holes all stayed lined up, because I didn't glue anything. The glue makes a big difference, so it helps you a lot. But I don't think I'm ever going to sell this wallet. We do craft shows and stuff during the winter when we can't do anything else, and I make leather crafts to take to these shows. I don't think I'll ever sell this because this is the first wallet I ever made. And I actually still have, I'll find it and show you guys in a video the next time I do some leather, maybe. Hopefully I can find it by then. It's packed up in storage, but I have a wallet that my grandfather actually made. So I'll show you some of his talent, because it's all made with tooling leather and it's tooled and looks really nice. So when I say tool, this is a tool. You can carve and do different things in the leather. It stamps really well. So I'm going to take a second here and go ahead and cut some of this thread. That racetrack that me and Brody are going to tomorrow, it's literally right up the road from my house, and I can hear them up there practicing right now. So it gets you excited about racing when you live this close to a racetrack. I hear it all the time. So I just dropped my thread on the ground, so I'll have to get that in a second. I think I'm going to have enough white. I don't think I'm going to need any more of that, but I have some out just in case. But when it comes to sewing or stitching these, it's similar to like stitching clothes. So if you know how to stitch clothes, you'd probably be okay with stitching leather. But there's some different patterns and stuff you have to do to make sure it ties back to itself so it doesn't come loose. And then you also want to touch your threads up, like your end pieces, with glue when you're done. But we'll walk through all that. Let's see how we're doing here on this one. All right, that one's ready to go. So this is basically, you know, I could not stitch this and this is a finished product. The stitching I like to do, like I said, as a backup and as just to give it a little something extra. So I'm using a hand punch, and I'm actually going to rotate this because I do not like the size that's on there. So that's the one I want. You just go in here, and I'm going to probably put 3 holes. Well, I'll probably do 4. Actually, I'm going to do a little more because we're using thread and not big. And what's nice, like those stitch lines we used early on when we first started making this, we put those stitch lines in it. Those can help you to keep a straight line and also even spacing between your holes. So if you follow those, you usually do pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this one. I'm gonna give the black one a little bit longer to set up just because it is thicker leather. The worst part about any stitching, if you've ever done any sewing, you know, is threading a needle. With stitching leather, you don't pull it even and then tie them because you don't want that doubled up. You want it singled. And then what I do is I'll go through here I'll leave quite a bit hanging off. Go back through the same hole again. Let me get my punch out of the way for the time being. We're leaving a little bit hanging off. We're going to go back through the same hole again, and then I go one more time, and then when you come back through the fourth time, you're not going to go back around, but you're going to go over to the next one, and then you're just going to take that back and forth all the way to the other side. And this is no different than regular sewing. You can use thimbles to protect your fingers and stuff. I just am not my fingers are too fat for thimbles, so it is a little harder for me. So we've gotten to the end. We're going back. I'm going to wrap a couple of times again, and then whenever we come up, so as you can see right now, every other hole is stitched, right? But whenever you go back the last time, you are going to fill those gaps in, front and back. And then you're just same thing again. You're going back and forth to the holes. And then I will wrap this in one more time. And then I'll come through here and tie a knot. One more time. And this thread is not like regular sewing thread. It does want to loosen, so that's the point for the glue, because this has like a silicone or a wax coating to it. So there, it's all stitched. We'll take a little bit of this glue, just very little. Find your knot. Coat your knot really good. And then we're going to set and let that dry. And then we'll do the same thing to the black one, and I'll show you guys how I do the stamping. This leather is a lot thicker, so I may have to punch it from both sides. We'll see. Nope, it's going to do just fine. We're going to do the same thing, same kind of pattern. Flip it around. Put one more in here. How many holes did I have in this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll do 5 in this one as well, so they match. All right. So we got those holes punched out. It's harder to see in the black. You'll be able to see it really good once I do the thread. I'm almost thinking about doing the gray on the black as well. I think that's going to look good. So same thing again. We're going to pull it through. We're going to leave a little hanging over. Wrap that a couple times. Second time, third time, and then we'll start going into up and down into every hole. Get to the end, same thing. One thing you want to make sure of too is that your thread is not just like all over the place. You want it, because it'll spread out. You want it to be a consistent straight line. So we did our couple wraps on the other side, coming back through. We'll do a couple of loops here, and we'll tie it. Scissors didn't cut too good last time, so I'm just going to use this X-Acto knife. It'll do just as good, probably a little better than the scissors at this point. Little glue. Dab on those threads. And that one's done. So we got 2 of them done. You can leave them like this, but I'm gonna dress them up a little bit for these fellers. Clean my glue spatula off. So on the black one, you got to make sure, because you don't want to put the letter the wrong way. I'm just going to come down here. You want to set your first one, and then you want to kind of make sure that they're going to be spaced out right, so it's not uneven. So once I get that first one figured out and my gaps are right, then I'll take this off. It's probably going to bounce the cameras, but I'm going to actually probably move out here to the end where it's a little more solid. Just want to make sure it's really straight. You're going to get a good smack. So you can see, got our first letter, and that square box that you see around it, it'll go away. And then the letter will be there by itself. And that square box gives you something to line your next stamp up with. And I'll kind of show you what I do to go ahead and try and get rid of the boxes a little faster than what you would. I take this little sander. If you take the point of it and kind of just go over everything, give it a little rub. You can see right there. So that's the first guy's done. A lot of times I'll just take the ball of this little tool, just go over the stamp one more time to make sure it's as deep as it can be without going through. That one's ready to go. So now we're going to do the next one. So we're starting out with actually the last letter that I used. So this one's a little longer. So we want to make sure. I think this one's going to wind up being right on the edge. right there. You can kind of feel, if you don't feel like you hit it good the first time, don't lift it up right away. Hit it again, and then that way, because if you lift it up and then try and match it back up, odds are you're going to double stamp something and it's going to be off. Big thing is making sure you got a solid surface to do this on, because you don't want to, if you try and do it on something that's not firm, it'll want to bounce, and it'll double stamp. Okay, so got that one. Take my tool here. Well, I want to do something that I told you guys not to do. The A in this one came back out a little bit, so I'm going to try to stamp it again. The other one, it's kind of hard to make out just because it is a lighter color. They do have stains, like you could go in and try and stain these, but I will warn you, these bleed really bad, so it's not the best thing to do. But by all means, if you feel like you can do it, do it. But that's it. That's this video. I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully it interested you. I'll take these to the guys tomorrow. I'm sure they'll be happy to see them. And give us some comments. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Like, comment, subscribe. Again, I appreciate you very much. And we'll see you here soon.